Coming up on Tech News Today, Google ditches Microsoft. Microsoft complains about Google. We find out if we have a solution to net neutrality, and Becky rips out my arm hair. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, June 1st, 2010. Tech News Today is brought to you by Slingbox. Watch your favorite TV shows when you're away from home with Slingbox. Check out Slingbox at Best Buy near you or at slingbox.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Becky Worley.
And behind the board is our excellent producer, Erik Lanigan. How you doing, Erik?
Good. How are you, Tom?
Good to be here. Episode 1, of course, couldn't be done without Leo Laporte.
Well, I mean, it could be, but...
We tried, but he was there in the lounge chair, so we had to acknowledge
I'm really not here. I just came by to say hi and wish you the best. It's a brand new show, and we're really glad to have you on the network, Tom. We're really thrilled. Well, Leo... And frankly, really thrilled to get Becky back in here to work with you, so that's really good news.
Been since 1998 when we all started together.
Yeah. It's like a Tech TV reunion here.
Yeah, a bunch
Sarah
of people
Lane's in the other room.
Yeah.
She just started today, too, and this just feels really good to me. I'm really excited.
TNT,
well, I want to thank
episode
you.
1.
Episode 1.
It's dynamite!
Thank you, Leo, for giving me the opportunity to come over here and do this.
We begged, we pleaded,
I'm
we
very
finally
excited.
wore you down. I don't know if that's an opportunity.
Now, this is going to be a blast. Becky will be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
At least.
At the very least, right? We'll have Sarah Lane coming in on Mondays and Fridays when you're not here. Dr. Kiki's going to try to jump in on Thursdays because she's here doing a bunch of shows. We're going to have a bunch of guests as well. Tomorrow, Veronica Belmont.
Yay.
Later this week, John Strickland and I as Actar. John Strickland from the How Stuff Works podcast, Tech Stuff. So it's going to be fun. We're going to be bringing in a lot of people from a lot of different places and talking about the tech news of the day, which starts today. Everybody's talking about the fact that Google is ditching Windows because of concerns about security, or at least that's the way the Financial Times reported it.
Internally, if you want to have a machine running Windows, you have to get approval from the CIO of Google. And this is, they say, a straight security play. You buy that?
I don't. I think I don't know if it's a straight security play. They also say, and this is what's interesting about this Financial Times article, that they've been moving this way for a while. That they actually have been discouraging people from using Windows. I know a couple people who work over there, and they've said, yeah, they've always tried to say like, you know, you probably don't want to use Windows. We'd rather you didn't. They want you to either be
Linux.
on OS 10 or Linux, and they actually want people to use Chrome OS if they can.
But why not just? I mean, part of me thinks this is a mistake because it distances you from your user base. And I understand the implications, and maybe I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse, but you know, it feels to me like you want to be having the same experience as a lot of your user base and not just walling yourself off into a special place for the geeks.
Yeah, and I think it makes it harder to actually create your product if you're not using it in all the different variations. That's why I run Windows, Ubuntu, and OS 10 on my MacBook, because I want to experience all those different ways of running things. If I'm running Google Search, you're going to have to go to the test bed now to try out Google Search on Windows. Right. I mean, I don't think this is such a great idea. Discouraging it is one thing. Banning it is a whole other.
They have their own browser. Why not just run that on a Windows machine in terms of having Chrome and just doing things that way? Or
if you're going to be Mr. Open Google, we're friendly to everybody, you get to choose. That's the way it was before. Why do you say you get to choose as long as it's not the operating system 90% of the populace uses?
The other thing that's interesting is, do you think this is coming back to the whole Google hack, China being an exploit that came out of Windows, and this is just reactionary in that regard?
No. I mean, really, why would that be? It was a flaw in Internet Explorer. It was a Flash flaw. Like, they're not telling people you can't use Adobe Flash anywhere in Google. They're not telling people, you know, just to get rid of the browser. It would be too much to do that. Now, what it could be is that Microsoft has actually voiced concerns over Google to the FCC, saying they're too market dominant. If Google got wind of that, maybe this is their retaliation. Like, oh, you're going to tell the FCC we're too dominant? Fine. No more Windows in Google. That's going to hurt your enterprise budget right there.
Sometimes I think tech companies are just a bunch of bitchy little girls. I mean, this is just one of those things like the timing is fishy, but it doesn't seem like this is really corporate tit for tat. But I think it's hilarious that Microsoft, the great dominant evil, is complaining to the government saying, okay, well, you know what, Google, you're too dominant. You know, we just can't handle you that way. It just does seem like, boy, the tables have turned so quickly.
Also, I don't think the FCC is the right person to complain about market domination to. What's the FCC going to do?
Right.
The Federal Trade Commission, maybe they just mistyped. They meant FTC. Yeah. Or you could do
Justice Department.
SEC, Justice Department. But really, this is not where you should go. However, you know, as funny as it is that it's Microsoft who has a 90% domination on the desktop, complaining about Google having a 90% domination on search, they're not alone. A lot of people are really really nervous about Google having as much domination of search because of the fact that when you dominate search, you could abuse your power to favor your own products. And it goes back to the fact that Google is not just a search engine.
I felt this sea change over the last 5 to 6 weeks. It sort of started with the Apple lost iPhone and them behaving poorly afterwards. But it seems like the darlings of tech, Facebook, Apple, and Google, have in the last 5 weeks somehow been seen in a little bit more of a black cloud. So whether it was the Google Wi-Fi slurp, whether it was Facebook privacy, or whether it was Apple, sort of this Adobe feud, or the iPhone thing, it just seems like the public is starting to have a glimmer of maybe these great tech companies are just like every other tech company.
Yeah.
They're out for profit. They're looking out for their own interests, and they're not the salvation we perceived of them in this new economy.
And I think they are different when they're small. I think when it was just Sergey and Larry,
right,
it was different, and they were true to their word, and they didn't want to be evil. But, you know, how many thousands of people work there now? You can't say that large of a collection of people is any one thing.
Yeah,
it's a corporation.
It's easier to adjust course and stay true to your mission when you're driving the Zodiac, but when you're trying to turn the Titanic, they do become corporate. And I think that is what we're feeling, is a definite sea change in their corporate identities, perhaps their sort of awkward adolescence, coming out of a really cool childhood, and maturity is a ways down the road.
Now we've got another anti-competitive story coming up. We're going to talk to CEO of Allied. I want to get it right, so I'm looking it up. Allied Fiber, Hunter Newby, in a minute. But first, we want to tell you about Computex 2010 going on in Taiwan right now. I'm gonna do my best to make a summary of Computex, Becky.
Go. I canonize you to do it.
Get comfortable. Settle in. You might need a pillow.
Bring out the tablet and mobile device releases. Go.
In response to Adam, Snapdragon announced third-generation chipsets running up to 1.2 gigahertz with application cores. They are called the Mobile Station Modem, MSM8260 and MSM8660, and they're targeted at high-end smartphones, tablets, and smartbooks. So fast new Snapdragon processors. Intel announced its own dual-core Atom processors and 2 chips aimed specifically at tablets to show off the new technology. Intel is demonstrating its Atom chips inside a razor-thin Canoe Lake platform. That's the super sexy 14-millimeter thick dual-core netbook.
That's thinner than an iPhone.
But then isn't that cool anymore?
But
is
for
it?
a netbook, it has a keyboard.
Yeah, but it's still big. I mean, do people get excited over the MacBook Air anymore?
I think people underestimate the importance of keyboard. And so for a keyboard that thin, I think that's a big deal. And, you know, I spoke with Ken Kaplan at Intel earlier today just to get a sense of what they're excited about. This is a prototype. And what they think this shows is the flexibility and the duality and really just the versatility of the chipsets. That as they move forward, it's not just about creating the cheapest netbook out there anymore. This is about, we've gotten it down to as cheap as you can get it. Now we're going to build it back up, but keep that teeny tiny form factor.
And that doesn't mean just netbooks. You can put it in a lot of different things. For instance, Chinese car maker Houtai, apologies for the pronunciation, plans to use these chips in their automobiles.
Right, and this is that also Intel's pushing their MeeGo sort of ecosystem for apps and things that can run on these chipsets. And they're trying to create an open platform. I don't know. I don't know that there's... Do we need another ecosystem for this kind of stuff? Can't we use what we already have?
Can always use another ecosystem.
I just like using the word. Okay, go. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. And a bunch of different tablets were unveiled. Asus ePad is official now with an Intel CULV processor, Windows 7 and 10-hour battery life. There's one from LG. There's a bunch of Android ones hitting the floor as well. So keep your eyes out on that. Who knows which, if any of these, is going to come out being something that you'll actually see. Right, this is a trade show. They don't. These things are often vaporware, and which ones will actually be good. But we're seeing more Windows 7 tablets in the news today than maybe you would have expected, given all the hype about Android going into Computex.
Also, some funky flavors of Windows 7 that I'd never heard of. It looked like scaled back versions, and it's just so funny that they are now an underdog, coming back and. I have no idea what place they will actually find in the long perspective of tablets and netbooks as we move forward.
One of their product managers said, everybody's going to flirt with Android, and they're going to come back to Windows 7 in the end.
It's possible. I mean, it is...
I don't know. I mean, it's that touch interface versus the stylus interface, and everything I've seen from Windows is still very much a stylus interface. Even if you just use your finger, you're just using Windows with your finger instead of having something built around that way of doing things.
I could see for business, though, I think the stylus just feels right. I don't know whether it's that thing of, you know how when you're holding your clipboard and you have your pen in your hand, you just look like you're in charge. There's something about that posture with the stylus. I'm not saying it's right for everybody.
You're not alone. Icon in the chat room likes them too.
What have I got in my hands? I've got an iPad. You know,
right.
I get.
But you don't have a stylus. You don't need that.
Right, but I'm saying this is for more media consumption of information. But I think when it comes to, I always go back to people undervalue I/O. What input-output is mission critical in so many devices. And while tablets are sexy, I'm sorry, I miss my keyboard all the time. And if a tablet makes it easier, if a stylus makes it easier for some people on a tablet, then I think there is a real place for that.
Yeah, you know what? I got to see what these different versions of Windows 7 that you're talking about look like before I pass final judgment.
I haven't seen them. One of them was on the. There was two versions that you just said for the Asus. Sorry,
the ePad.
The ePad. One was a 10-hour battery life, and the other one was on a 12-inch screen, and the other was a 10-inch screen that was running a flavor of Windows 7 that I'd not heard of before. It wasn't like Starter Edition or anything weird. It was just like, okay, what is this going to look like? I have no idea.
All right. Let's move on to our guest on the show today. We have Hunter Newby, CEO of Allied Fiber. As I understand it, and Hunter, correct me if I'm wrong here, Allied Fiber intends to run a backhaul fiber network across the United States and provide neutral access to all comers. Is that fairly presented there?
Fairly, yes.
Tell us a little more about what your company is wanting to do, because I think this is very interesting and has some interesting implications for net neutrality.
Well, first, thanks for having me on the show. This is great. What we're doing is really solving physical layer interconnection problems. We can be viewed as a landlord, essentially, a real estate for fiber and the associated neutral co-location facilities that are obviously essential for access to the fiber. Our design is unique, and it's for today, and it supports all the things that you were just talking about, the different devices that are coming out, tablets, the iPad. I just got one myself. As a matter of fact, it is quite revolutionary. And the networks that need to support those devices and the applications that will run on those devices, like your sponsor, Slingbox. I just wrote an article, actually, about Slingbox and the Sling Player Mobile, and it's pretty amazing what you could do with streaming HD over the web to these devices, which are quite different than an iPhone or even a laptop. And as they reach more and more masses of people who are going to use these applications, there is quite a large need for fiber-based backhaul facilities. And our design and our route through the U.S., starting with our first phase between New York, Chicago, and Ashburn, Virginia, by way of Harrisburg, PA, along the Norfolk Southern Railroad rights-of-way, incorporates the dual duct architecture, which is a long-haul duct and fiber cable of a 432 count, with a parallel short-haul cable for the 216 count. The short-haul cable is what's meant to be accessed on an intermediate basis, and that's what's missing from all the legacy network designs for long haul in the U.S. that were built 10 plus years ago when, quite frankly, wireless backhaul didn't exist as a concept.
Now, if I understand this right, this would allow anyone to start their own ISP and use you as the provider of that backhaul. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We strictly lease dark fiber and the associated neutral colo facilities in order to create the underlying infrastructure for an ISP. Obviously, there's a lot of existing ISPs that are going to use our infrastructure, but yes, it's correct. You could basically get into business using our facilities. Do
you think that this will impact the debate around net neutrality? And this is my proposition here, which is instead of saying, you know what, there's no competition. You've got cable or you've got DSL, and nobody can break into them because AT&T or Comcast or whoever's in your area has it locked down. We don't have enough competition. Could you and maybe if other people get into this same sort of business, change that game? Do you think that you could turn the tables?
Yeah, we're a part of it. Don't forget, we're not building off the right-of-way. That's not our job. We're not a regional provider. We're not a metro provider. We're not an ISP. We don't sell anything lit. But if someone wanted to build a wireless ISP in a particular region, they could use our fiber to get out to that point, and then our associated neutral colo facilities and towers along the railroad, which already exist, to distribute microwave links to other points where they could aggregate and distribute to different, 3 and 4G wireless networks. And they could create a competitive wireless ISP to what exists in the cable and DSL. We don't build last mile. Building last mile is a difficult proposition at the physical layer. I do believe that wireless makes more sense if you look into emerging markets like in Africa or in South America or India, for example. Wireless is booming because of the reduced CapEx cost and time to market. That'll happen in a lot of regions in the United States, which really parallel third world nations and the state that the network infrastructure is in those countries. So it's possible that other parties could join into our infrastructure and start to provide those competitive networks. And I'll add that net neutrality has nothing to do with the internet. It has everything to do with access to the internet. And net doesn't mean internet. It means network neutrality. It's about access. And if you can gain physical access to your own fiber, you can set your own rules. And I don't mean fiber in the last mile. I mean backhaul fiber that goes all the way to the main carrier hotels and meet me interconnection points and peering points in the United States and anywhere. If you can do that, you're free. You're free to establish your own network, and you can buy and sell wholesale, and you can peer. I helped create a couple of the largest such physical air interconnection facilities in the U.S. over the past 10 years. And basically, the Allied Fiber route exists to go to and from those places, but provide for on and off ramps to all the parts in between in the U.S. that need that access.
Well, Mr. Newby, thank you very much for joining us and explaining that. I think it is an interesting element to this whole debate. Like you said, it's still tough to get the fiber to the curb. But companies like yours at least provide a little bit more competition out there. So I'm excited to see it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Becky's got some calendar items for you.
So exciting.
And we got a bunch more stories about robots that can explode things. But first, let me tell you about Slingbox. Slingbox lets you watch your home TV anywhere you are on any portable device. You can use it on iPhone, iPod Touch. I actually use it on the iPad already. You can use the iPhone app to watch it on the iPad, but they're coming out with an iPad app as well. Blackberries, laptops, MacBooks. You go to Best Buy or someplace like that. You buy a Slingbox. You bring it home. You hook up your Slingbox to your TV and internet connection, and then you watch your TV on your mobile phone or your laptop, wherever you are. You can watch any program that you subscribe to at home on that device. There's no limitations. There's no, well, Hulu's going to block you at this place or that. No, nothing like that. Pre-recorded shows from your DVR, any of the same shows you watch on your TV at home, you can watch on the go. Check it out. Slingbox, available at your nearest Best Buy or at slingbox.com.
I get behind on my episodes of Parenthood, and I'm actually still haven't finished Lost because I'm traveling.
Oh, let me tell you how it ends.
Oh, I actually went on social media blackout for 3 days just to avoid the Lost.
You still need to be on that blackout.
I know.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about a few more stories, but first, one of the things Becky wants to do is tell you what's going on in the world, what's coming up.
I always feel
Becky's
like
calendar.
that I miss out. Oh, that's happening. I didn't realize. Or, oh, that's coming up. Why didn't somebody tell me? So here's the calendar. A couple things that are coming up. Today is the start of the D conference, all things D. They're calling this D8 or DATE. This is the Wall Street Journal's conference that Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg put on. It's at a Shishi Hotel down in SoCal, Terranea. It makes me want to have a Mai Tai. But it's actually a bunch of heavy hitters talking. Steve Jobs, Steve Ballmer, Steve Case, only people named Steve. John Donahoe of eBay, Lloyd Braun, formerly of Yahoo, will be speaking. Jeffrey Katzenberg. I think that we're going to see some very interesting comments, interactions, and perhaps news coming out of this in the next couple of days. It starts today, and some of the big keynotes, I think Jobs speaks tonight at 8 o'clock. A week from yesterday, so next Monday, is the Apple WWDC. What would Steve Jobs do? We'll
be covering that live on live.twit.tv. Me and Alex Lindsay and a few other people will be sitting and doing the play-by-play as it happens.
I'll be around. I'll be harassing you. So we expect to see the new iPhone. I'm really curious. I held the lost iPhone in my hands when I got to go down and take a look at it with Jason.
And they still invited you?
I'm shocked that I got an invite. I was sort of a little nervous, but hey, I'll be there. So that's next week. Not sure if we're going to see the new Apple TV $99 jobber coming out. I kind of think no. And then yesterday on my calendar, yesterday was an important day because it was Dump Facebook Day.
Yeah, nobody did that.
Leo did. But then
he did it a long time ago. He did it before it was cool.
But Leo has a Facebook page now. It's an imposter.
Oh, really? Somebody's already jumped on that? That's not surprising.
They put a little picture of him. It looks like a wrestler or like a roller derby star with like a little pink with stars behind him.
Nice.
Yeah. But I think the bottom line on Dump Facebook Day, they said something like 33,000 people quit. That's nothing.
Out of how many millions? That's barely a drop.
What's your take? I mean, this is our first day together, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our first day together.
Right, right.
So I need to know how you feel about this Facebook privacy.
I don't really care.
What?
You know what? I hear, and I've mentioned this on Buzz Out Loud before. There is nothing that I put on Facebook that I didn't expect would become public anyway. That's how paranoid I am. And so personally, I have never been worried about any of that stuff because I just always assumed that this is a company I don't know. Because when I signed up, it was still this kind of fly-by-night, meant for students kind of thing. I was like, who knows what they're going to do with my data? I'm not going to give them anything that I don't want to make private. And that paranoia paid off this time.
So why do you think that everyone's so upset? I mean, do you have empathy for it?
Yes, because you don't go and say like, oh, you made that private? We're going to make that public. I mean, we talked about this on TWiT on Sunday, That's the bad thing that they did.
Right.
Yes, you can argue about how it shouldn't have been complicated, but you could use something else if you really don't want to use Facebook. You don't have to use Facebook.
You do have to use Facebook. If you want to communicate with other human beings.
No, you don't.
What's your other option? Email?
Pick up a phone.
No.
Send a telegram. No,
you have no.
I know what you're saying, which is, there's certain things you can't do without Facebook, but you're not forced to use it. However, actually going into the settings and saying, you made that private, I'm going to make that public now. That
was sleazy.
That's over the line.
Do you think that this Quit Facebook Day had an impact on raising people's awareness of privacy issues?
No, because they did it on the Memorial Day weekend in the U.S. And they did it on a weekend everywhere.
Yeah.
And hardly anybody knew about it, so yeah.
Well, that was Quit Facebook Day. Oh, one other thing I just want to mention, Windows Embedded Compact 7 was the flavor of Windows that was on the 10-inch Asus book, so apologies. I'm just getting back
Windows
into this
CE
daily tech grind.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Work me through it, gang.
Sounds like Elon Musk is running out of cash, so we've decided to set up a PayPal donation form for him. Elon Musk is Tesla Motors CEO. In a court filing dated February 23rd, he filed in his divorce case that he's basically broke.
This guy has made so much money in his life. So he was involved in PayPal, sold it to eBay, made bank. He did something else. What was it? Zip. He did something else. I think it was a Zip2, storage company. He made so much money. At times he was making $20, $30 million a year. but he's been pouring a lot of that money into Tesla. And now the issue is if he's going through this bad divorce and he doesn't have any cash on hand, what's the impact for Tesla?
Do you think he's lying?
Well, that's the other thing.
He
is
just doesn't want to lose it in the divorce, so he's like, I broke.
Do you know his wife is she's a science fiction writer.
Oh, who's his wife?
Her last name now is Musk, like Joan or something. But anyways, that's the thing. You never know. In a nasty divorce, you never know. But I think the interesting thing is Tesla's going through such they've had a good, bad, ugly year.
And it was looking hopeful for him recently because they had working with Toyota to open up a plant in Fremont, California, to do a joint venture, and they were going to start. And they're starting to sell the sedan instead of just the sports car,
right, which isn't. I mean, the sedan is an interesting play for them because if you look at it over the lifetime of the car, compared to your standard sedan, if you're buying a Buick or something like that, it does pay for itself in 3 or 4 years in terms of the differential of sticker price. So I think the company is definitely branching out, but the deal with Toyota is dependent upon an IPO within a structured amount of time. So the fact that Elon Musk is having cash troubles, it makes the average consumer or the average investor worry, that's a little nerve-wracking for a guy who's been shoveling a lot of money into this company over the long haul.
Yeah, and this is something that a lot of people want to see succeed.
Yeah.
Because it's cool. It's cool to have an all-electric car that goes fast and drives like a regular car and can go far. And this is, for folks who like electric cars, one of the best hopes.
This is not a regular car, Tom. This is the scariest car I've ever driven.
Why? Why is that?
It's maybe 2 inches off the ground because it's a performance vehicle, right?
Yeah, right.
The acceleration is like Disneyland ride. I mean, you put your foot on the gas and you accelerate to the point where you feel the G's pushing you into the back of the chair. I was terrified driving the car. The turning radius is a little funky. I know this doesn't have anything to do with the story, but honestly, that was one of the craziest experiences because that car is foreign. And I think it was more because it was a performance vehicle than the fact that it's electric. I think that has very little to do with it. But dang, that thing's fast.
Amazon and Apple and all the other folks who are fighting it out over ebooks are making publishers sad.
Poor publishers.
The Wired reports that the industry is at the Book Expo America trying to work together to create an ebook standard that can be published and shared no matter where you buy it or what device you're using.
Okay, so EPUB, I think we need a little background here. So EPUB is the standard that should be ubiquitous, but the problem is there's DRM on top of it, which makes it well, it's not yet. Sometimes it's .mobi or sometimes it's EPUB or, so we've got a format confusion, but then what you're saying is right. There's DRM on top of it, so even if it's all EPUB or all .mobi or whatever, if I buy it on Amazon and it's DRM'd, I can't use it on my Nook. I can't even take a Kindle book on my iPhone and read it in the iBook software. Well, because I can't get the iBook software on my iPhone, but I can't even take an Amazon book on my iPad and read it on the iBook software. And this is just, in my opinion, the publishers coming to the same problem that everybody's fought through before. We've seen the music industry go through this. Their solution, un-DRM'd MP3s or AACs, in which case it didn't matter because AACs and MP3s play on pretty much everything. The video industry is still DRM'd and still fighting with this, still working out the problems and going and suing people and saying if you try to download the Hurt Locker, we're going to charge you $5,000 and that's going to be our business model. They haven't figured out what the music industry has figured out yet. And now we're seeing the publishers finally waking up and going, hey, wait a minute. People are actually starting to read books electronically. Right.
This DRM thing causes problems.
Right.
We need to have a standard DRM. And it's been tried. It's been tried in many different cases. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe publishers are the ones that are going to figure this out and get the manufacturers and the device makers and the service people and the software all on one boat and have one DRM for everybody. And it'll be this perfect, wonderful DRM that'll work everywhere and never cause any problems. And I'll be able to back up everything and use it on multiple devices. But I seriously doubt that.
Your optimism is so palpable.
Isn't it, though? It fills up the room.
The one thing I will say is that publishers are the classic old boys. They know how to get together and throw their weight around. And so if you dry up the source material and they can sort of unionize against the
movie industry and recording industry ain't no slouches.
Oh, but I don't know. That's the question, is will they learn the lessons and be able to consolidate their power and really leverage against hardware manufacturers in order to standardize? As a consumer reporter, I can tell you this kind of stuff makes me crazy, because ultimately, while publishers may suffer and hardware manufacturers are taking big risks, consumers are hosed.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know what to buy. They don't know where to put their money. I don't know. I mean,
Well, and that is why the music industry ended up going with un-DRM'd MP3s, because they finally came to the conclusion that you cannot stop the piracy with DRM. If you're going to try to stop the piracy, DRM doesn't work at all.
Right.
Because it only takes one copy to be broken in an infinitely copyable medium. And so that's not where you fight piracy with DRM. And they've given up on that, and it hasn't killed them. They're actually selling more digital music than ever. And so that's, I think, what you've got to realize. But that's a hard lesson for people to wrap their heads around. But the pressure that will make them do it is what you're saying, because the consumer is the one who's going to be like, you know what, I don't care about your fight against piracy. I don't care about DRM. I just want it to work.
Right.
And now, if you buy an MP3 from Amazon or you buy an AAC from iTunes, it works.
They haven't even gotten to that point. It's just, what hardware do you buy now? I mean, the only questions I'm getting is, do I buy the iPad? Do I buy the Kindle? What do I do?
Right. And that's where we were with MP3s players back a while ago. And then after a while, everybody's like, wait a minute, I just changed MP3 players.
I'm not using my Arcos jukebox anymore.
And now all the stuff that I bought from Plays For Sure doesn't play for sure. Dude, we haven't got to that point in the publication.
This all came out of the book fair, the big New York book fair that was last week, and I thought a couple interesting things that came out of that. One thing was a lot of new innovation around ebooks and what you can do with it. This one I loved, Ripple. It allows adults to buy children's ebooks and record their voices reading them. Oh, good. And then they'll get a takedown notice from the Authors Guild for unlicensed book on tape. Only for the maybe it's okay if you have some vision issues. Who knows? But yeah, they'll be the next thing. People were really into the Entourage Edge. Did you see that? The twin screen device? You know, it's really cool looking. I saw it at CES, but heavy. Right. So this is a device that has on one screen a sort of a black and white, or what would you call that color scheme the Kindle has, which is monochromatic. And then on the other side, it has a color screen. That's the one, right? Yeah, yeah. And then you can drag and drop between the screens. I thought that was pretty cool. So you can cut and paste notes. I liked the functionality of it. It was a little ugly and really heavy. It was really heavy. That was my only thing. The other thing that was interesting out of the book fair was this woman, Eileen Gittins of Blurb, a company that helps authors self-publish. Great first name. Eileen. You just got to love some Eileens. She predicts half of all book sales will be digital in 5 years. Yeah, sure, if not more. Really? Yeah. I totally see that. And the reason I see that is, you think about books, you think about these beautiful hardbound novels, right? Nobody buys those. The bulk of book sales comes from disposable trade paperback and pocket-sized paperback. And those are the things, people don't care about having those. If you can get them easily and carry them around in a Kindle or in something you already have, like your phone, yeah. Half. I think that'll see, I think that presumes a saturation of hardware that I think exceeds people's pocketbooks, unless the prices on this hardware comes down considerably. I mean, maybe if people are reading them on their phones. Well, that's what I think. I think they're going to be on devices. That's where it's going to work, is because it's going to be on devices people already have. We only have 3 more stories before we start to cut out of here. We will have some voicemails and emails. And don't forget what's sitting right here. Yes. I'm not going to tell you what it is. We might have time for Becky's special device. That's a little sound effect of what it does. It kind of frightens me. And it has to do with Tom's facial hair. The IRS wants a cut of your online sales on eBay and Craigslist if you sell more than $20,000 worth of stuff. They actually went after a former IRS employee who was just taking old designer clothes and valuable things that she had and selling them on eBay and hadn't reported more than $41,000 of income. What got her was not that she hadn't necessarily reported the income, but she didn't have the documentation to prove that this was used stuff. You have to show, like, hey, I actually paid more for this than I sold it, so it's actually a loss. Depreciation. It's not a gain. But if you don't have that, and they can say, look, we went through the records at eBay, and you made $41,000, you got to pay taxes on that. This is one of those stories that when you see the headlines, it says, IRS going after people for selling on eBay wants cut of action. So you're thinking, oh, they want sales tax. That's what I thought when I first read it. Yeah, no. That's not what this story is.
They're going after the garage sales.
Right, but if it's your full-time business, and if you go on eBay, you know, I mean, that's a huge part of what people are doing on there.
But that's the thing with eBay now, right, is that you don't even have to have it be your full-time business to make $20,000 if you just do it a lot.
What are you selling on eBay?
I don't sell anything on eBay.
Tom.
But you know what I mean? Like if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to always take my old clothes at the end of a season and sell them on eBay. And you designer clothes.
That is so untrue.
You could easily make $20,000.
If you're a real housewife of Orange County, I mean,
which I am.
But no, that is such a bunch of hooey. You have got to be doing this almost full time to make that kind of money.
You don't think somebody could just I guess what I'm trying to say is it's so much easier to sell stuff than, you know, to make $20,000 off a garage sale. You have to be pretty obviously doing it all the time every weekend, but I feel like you could stumble into it if you have the right stuff.
Maybe.
And I guess sell $20,000 of stuff that cost you $40,000 to buy.
Listen, my father has the best advice when it comes to the IRS. Report every penny you make.
But that's the
period.
I
won't say anything about anything else.
That's the thing about this is you're not making money, you're losing money because you're selling stuff that it costs you more.
These people are resellers. I call hooey.
Well, that's what IRS wants to go after, are the people you're talking about.
The one thing that was interesting, though, is that for 2011 tax returns, this is right from the IRS site, taxpayers who annually sell more than $20,000 worth of goods and have more than 200 electronic transactions will receive a new IRS form known as the 1099-K, reporting the proceeds. So I think it's fascinating that there's a category now, a space that the IRS has had to make for this animal that's an eBay, you know, sort of appendage.
Let's move on to the Roomba that can destroy people. This is the company iRobot makes the Roomba. Originally started as a weapons manufacturer, right?
Well, they were...
Or not a weapons manufacturer, but as a military oriented
They were MIT
company.
People who got a DARPA grant.
And so they were trying to make weaponized robots. They finally made a weaponized robot. It's kind of Roomba-ish even.
It's amazing. We're watching the video.
Yeah, if you skip to... Yeah, there it is. So there it rolls on to the screen. If you're on the audio, you're going to have to go to the show notes at twit.tv/TNT and click on this. It's on Slash.today.
It's not a round coin-like device. It actually looks like a robot kind of tank.
Now, it shoots out a missile that has a parachute. But if we skip ahead, what was it, about 138?
Oh, this is it right here. This is so cool.
Yeah, so you watch, you can watch it in slow motion as the missile rolls through the sky. But if you skip ahead to about 138, then you can see what it does when it hits the ground. Somewhere right around there.
Parachute drags behind it.
Thank you.
Boom!
And the road is clear.
It's like when I first saw it, I thought that it was like the chili pepper tool in Plants vs. Zombies. You know, the one that takes out the whole row of zombies.
It kind of does look like that.
It's exactly what it does.
Totally.
By the way, that's the entire reason I'm doing this show, is because if I didn't start doing something on a regular basis, I was going to have to go and do a 12-step program to get out of my Plants vs. Zombies problem.
Have you got all the achievements?
On the iPhone, and I've started over on the iPad.
Yeah, I'm one away from all the achievements on the iPad.
You look at my iPad, all you can see are the dots.
The dots from Plants vs. Zombies.
It's so sad.
Finally, Jabra has put out a survey showing that driving habits are even worse than you thought. People do all kinds of crazy stuff. 29% of respondents admitted to having kissed others while driving, whereas a smaller but surprising number, 15%, said they've performed sexual acts while driving.
15%.
Look around you if you're on the highway right now listening to the show.
What is that, 1 in 8? I was told there'd be no math.
Yeah.
But, 1 in 8
if you
people,
see 9 cars around you,
somebody's might be getting busy.
Easily one of them, yeah.
It's not texting. It's not driving and talking on the cell phone. It's getting busy and driving. We need to put analog causes to blame as much as digital causes.
If you throw in the kissing with the sex, that's 29%. 28% confirm they have sent text messages while driving. So more people getting it on than sending text messages. 13% implying makeup, 12% reading or writing emails, 10% reading the newspaper.
I see that all the time when you're driving across the Bay Bridge. I mean, it's slow, but come on.
And 5% confess to having played video games. Another 5% say they have shaved while behind the wheel.
Yeah, I see the...
Obviously, I haven't.
No. But we do have some hair removal devices. One of the things that I want to do on this show every day is bring a product that I find fascinating. And today, It's the Silken Laser Hair Removal System.
That's not technology.
It is. There's a laser right in there.
Oh, it has lasers. All right.
There's a laser. So ready? You ready to test it out on your arm? The way this works.
I thought you were going to test it out on my face. I was a little worried there for a second.
No, not your face. The way this works is that it goes on the arm and or
You're
the
going to shoot me with a
skin.
laser.
I'm going to shoot with a laser, and it damages the hair follicle.
Okay, that's easy.
And when it does that, it prevents it from growing back. So you ready? I brought this up because it's the beginning of the summer season. Ladies are wearing their shorts and their skirts.
All right.
You prepared? Okay.
Yeah, here we go.
All right.
Watch me squirm.
Okay, it's on. I gotta stun 10.
Setting
ready?
on stun, yeah. Actually, ow.
What do you think?
You know, it didn't remove any hair.
No, it
but it was
won't
warm.
go back ever again. What do you think?
I think it's a ripoff.
Well, we'll see in a
I got
month.
tons of hair there.
You have to wait for a month and it won't grow back. So
All
my
right,
device of the day.
So I'll have a patch there.
You'll have a patch.
That'll fall out.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
That's my device of the day is the Silken Laser Hair Removal.
Better than a tattoo.
You know, it's just I just am saying I'm going to try and bring a device of the day.
In a month, you said?
Yeah.
That's a ripoff. I want it to come off now. It's lasers.
Yeah, I use this on my legs. I don't shave anymore.
That's frightening.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to the voicemails. If Eric's ready, we got Todd in Riverside called in to 260-TNT-SHOW. That's the name of our phone number, 260-868-7469. And Todd has a question for us, Becky, about what we think about something Leo has proposed.
Hey, Tom, this is Todd in Riverside. A couple days ago, Leo sent out a tweet asking us to try Orchid as an alternative to Facebook. What do you think of that? All right, thanks. Bye.
Facebook over Orchid. I mean, Orchid over Facebook. Get rid of Facebook, use Orchid. Does that solve your problem where you're like, you can't have to use Facebook?
This is where I think
You have
all
lots
of
of new Brazilian friends.
Oh, well, yeah, hey, see you at the beach.
Speaking of.
All I can say is that this whole Facebook privacy thing is ridiculous to me because the momentum is so in favor of Facebook. Unless you have friends who are as sort of out there and want to be proactive on privacy as you do, this is no way.
I like Orchid. I liked it a lot when I used it, but then when everyone stopped using it, I stopped using it, and that's the point.
Yeah.
You gotta be where your friends are. So
Let's
you can
go
get all
back
your
to-
friends to go to Orchid, then yeah, and that's what Leo's trying to do.
Right.
He's like, come on, everybody, follow me to Orchid.
I love that Leo tries to be a momentum shifter, and he is a leader.
I don't know how seriously he's trying to do that.
We could go back to Friendster or Dogster. Remember Dogster?
Yeah, I still use Dogster. Django's on there. I don't think Sawyer's on there yet. MC Fisticuffs, I know that guy, wrote in and said, Tom, Becky, congrats on the new show. I was wondering if audience participation would be similar to that of BOL, a lot of interaction and participation, or TWiT, random chat room shoutouts only. I realized that I could have waited for the first episode to air to learn the answer, but I wanted a shot at being the first person to have an email read on TNT. So here's my question. Will audience participation be similar to that of BOL or TWiT? MC Fisticuffs.
It's so gratuitous that he totally wins points.
Well, the answer is it's like you saw on this episode so far, MC
Right.
Fisticuffs.
By the way, this is a complete iterative design. This is episode 1. Episode 2 will be completely different.
Yeah, we're not gonna do any of the same things that we did in this episode. It's always gonna be different. No, actually, in all seriousness, email us tnt@twit.tv and let us know what kind of things you like, what kind of things you don't. This show isn't going to be perfect yet.
And I'm
until we get a
Worley
lot of
on
that.
Twitter.
Oh,
You're-
yeah, I'm Ace Detect. Good luck spelling it. Do you want to read the next email?
Do I have it? No.
Yeah, it's in the Google Doc. You don't have the Google
have it.
Doc up.
No,
All
I'm
right.
just going free
I
form.
got it.
Sorry,
Steve
Homer.
in Charlotte, North Carolina said, I always hear you all discuss when an organization chooses Google for its cloud services. So in the interest of fairness, how about covering this story where the University of Arizona has chosen Microsoft's Business Productivity Online Suite for email, calendaring, and collaboration tools. And he's got links to tmcnet.com's story about it. I think you're right that we need to acknowledge that Microsoft sells a lot of this stuff. But the reason it's news when Google does it is because they don't ever get anybody. If we reported every time somebody signed up with Microsoft for a client, that's all we do.
No, but then I think this goes back to the sea change of how the darling companies of Google, Facebook, and Apple are now becoming canonized as big corporations. So the new underdogs are Microsoft, and I don't know, who else would you think are the old bad guys that are the new underdogs? I mean, Microsoft is front and center.
Yeah, Microsoft's starting to realize that they should embrace this new role.
Right.
That they should be like, hey, everybody thinks of us as old and underdogs. Maybe we can be underdogs again.
Right. Maybe BlackBerry. I mean, they have a lot of market saturation, but in terms of press love, nothing.
Palm.
Yahoo.
Palm.
Oh, Palm is so... Yeah.
But now they've got a white knight with HP.
Right.
So...
Right. Well, WebOS will become its own animal, and Palm will just become a vestigial appendage.
It's an animal, I tell you.
But, yeah.
All right, folks, that wraps us up. That is the end of the first episode of Tech News Today. We made it, Becky.
Oh, we lived.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody for watching. Don't forget to email us TNT@twit.tv. You can call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. Thanks to Leo for bringing us on the network. Thanks to Erik for producing it. And thanks to you for watching it. You can find us at twit.tv/TNT. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.